on annual returns. My name is Shannon Kelly, and I will be your facilitator for today's webinar. All companies and closed corporations are required to file and pay annual returns on an annual basis. CIPC cannot stress the importance of having your annual returns filed. If your company is not compliant, please listen to today's webinar to find out what is annual returns, the importance of annual returns compliance, and how to comply via CIP's electric format. Okay, so that is just briefly a brief introduction on annual returns and what it is all about. Our webinar is going to consist of our presenter, which is our senior manager from the Companies and Closed Corporation Unit at the CIPC, Advocate Krista Cloko. Thereafter, we will have a question and answer session, and then we'll have a survey and our closure. So, Advocate Krista, I'm handing over to you.
Thank you very much, Shani. Much appreciated. And good morning, everybody. As Shani so kindly indicated, my name is Krista Cloko, and I am the Senior Manager for Companies and Closed Corporations at the CIPC. And annual returns is one of the functions that I administer, or my team administers, on behalf of CIPC. So I hope you do find this information useful. Please note that the format is almost identical to the webinar that was done in August, September. The only difference is that I'm putting a little bit of information on beneficial ownership into this webinar, because that is the next big item that's coming online that's going to be closely associated with annual returns. All right, so what is the big question? What is annual returns? So in order to start, I'm going to use the analogy. Those of us that are privileged enough to own cars know that on an annual basis, we need to go and renew our car license, right, in order to drive on the road. Now, annual returns is quite similar in that it actually gives, it's like an annual renewal that you file with the CIPC, which is basically information-based, to keep your business on the road conducting business. Just a very big disclaimer, that is not the legal description or the legal definition. It's to make it understandable for the audience the way that I structure this. So none of this presentation needs to be taken that it is law or that's what the Act states. This is basically a very simplified way of stating what it is so that we can all can understand what it is. I've realized in my years with CIPC, don't throw the book at somebody or the law. If we understand what it is in a common language, it makes it easier for us to understand what it is, how it works, and then also to comply. Right, so in short again, annual returns, it's your annual renewal to keep your business on the road. So it's an annual filing of information with the CIPC to confirm the latest information of your company or closed corporation as per the date of filing. So annual return at its core is information collection. And a little bit later on, I will explain what the role of CIPC and regarding corporate information is. So during this annual filing, we check a whole bunch of information regarding the business, right? We check your corporate information, your director's, auditor's address, financial year-end, company name, whether that is up to date. We check that you... Who is keeping your financial records? Are you keeping financial records? And then the submission of those. We check your level of compliance with the Companies Act. One of the new things is beneficial owners. We check who the beneficial owners is. And we also check some operational information, the number of employees, was the company active or dormant, the main business activity, and were you actually conducting, and where were you conducting business, right? So all of the above helps CIPC to execute its various functions and objectives that we have. And those all come from our legislation, as well as from because we are a government department, from the directors of government, in order to help the wheels of government work more smoothly. Okay. So as I said, it's an annual filing. So you file it once a year, right? It's not a little bit here and a little bit there. It's once a year. You can diarize it. I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a joke. You diarize it like your partner's birthday, all right? It is your business. It's your baby. You diarize its birthday, all right? And you celebrate it. When you filed your information, annual return information, celebrate the existence of your business. It's hard work to own a business. It takes a lot of sacrifices to so celebrate. All right, so now the question is, when do you file your annual returns? So it's slightly different between companies and closed corporations. So for companies, it's 30 business days from the day after its anniversary date. Closed corporations have a little bit longer. It's from the first day of its anniversary month until the month thereafter. So let's say you celebrate your birthday on the 9th of September, or that is the birthday of your business. If your business is in the format of a company, you can start filing from the 10th of September for 30 business days. If your business is a closed corporation, you would have been able to submit your annual returns from the first day of September up until the last day of October. Right? So that's the filing period that you've got. Very, very important. You have to file annual returns and all that information, even if your company or business was dormant and not conducting business. Our law is very specific. Even if because you have got a legal entity, a legal persona, whether you were using it or not, there's obligations that has to be complied with. Right? So, next question. Let's say you do forget. Will CIPC remind you? Yes, we will. So as CIPC, and we've done it for, I cannot hear, 8 years, 10 years already. In the month that the companies and CCs becomes due for filing, we issue an email reminder to all the active directors and members of the CC at the beginning of the month that the annual returns are becoming due. Due to the volume and efficiency of issuing the reminders, it is issued electronically only. We don't send out cell phone numbers. We send it via cell phone and email. My apologies. Right? We don't post it. Please be reminded, we register about 40 to 50,000 new companies in a month. So, and our compliance is very big. We can't post that amount of reminders out. So we send it via email. In any case, most of you don't even have post boxes anymore. So email is the modern way of doing it, and that's the primary communication. We can issue the reminder to you, provided that we've got the right contact details of the directors and members. What we are picking up as CIPC, people do not put the correct email and cell phone numbers when they register their new companies or amend their directorship or membership information. It must be your unique contact details. Because how are we going to reach you? If you use a service provider, don't allow the service provider to put his or her contact details there. We need to contact you. This is your baby. You have the responsibility to take care of it, and you need to know what's going on, and you need to make the arrangements to get things done. And what we try to do at CIPC, we try to make it as easy as possible that you can actually do it yourself, that you don't use the services of a service provider. That, of course, that's your discretion whether you want to use it, but we're trying to make it as easy as possible. All right, other matters to be filed with annual returns. As per the first slide, there's a whole bunch of checks that we've got. So to make it easier for companies and closed corporations to comply with all of these other requirements in terms of the Act is structured in such a way that all these additional services that has to be filed with the annual returns once a year. So when you file your annual return, those of you that have done it before will realize before you can get to the annual return, you need to file your financial information, either your audited financial statements or your financial accountability supplement. After that, there's a little compliance checklist where we ask you a few questions. And you say, I've complied, I've not complied. It's also to create awareness. Then the new thing that's coming online, and some of you may have heard about it, is beneficial ownership. It's a big thing in South Africa at the moment that we need to bring those in. I've got a few slides on a little bit later, so I'm going to delve into that. Currently, it's a standalone function with the CIPC, the beneficial ownership, but in the next couple of months, we are going to force the filing of beneficial ownership information before you will be able to file annual returns. So those of you that are intermediaries or service providers, please clearly note that this is coming. Please follow the information on the CIPC social media platforms, our webinars regarding beneficial ownership, that you can get it ready. Currently, it is mandatory to file beneficial ownership, and we have issued a notice that we will issue enforcement action for those that has not yet complied. So please familiarize yourself and please do comply. Right. So now the big question. Do I have to pay when I file the annual return? Yes, you have to file a fee for filing the annual returns, right? The reason for this is that there's a few things. So number one, CIPC is what we call a self-sustainable entity, right? As a government department. We don't get money from Treasury. So the taxes that you pay at SARS, your personal tax, your company tax, all those different types of tax obligations you have, SARS collects that on behalf of government, then Treasury, and then there's a voting process as to how this money needs to be distributed. I think we all know about the February, usually we discuss the budget reviews in February every year as part of our government processes. Then the money gets distributed to the different departments in order to execute their functions and respond and to provide services. Now, CIPC are not a beneficiary of that funds. So we collect our own funds by delivering. If you access one of our specific services, like registering a new company, a name, or filing annual returns, we ask a fee because it does cost money to maintain this information. It costs money to put the infrastructure in, to protect the data. Cybersecurity is a big thing. We need to protect your personal information. We need to have financial systems. We have staff to assist, we have technology, etc., that we need to pay for in order to deliver the services to you as a member of the public. And unfortunately, that does cost money. So the fee is done in such a way that even if you make amendments after registering a new company, for most of them, you don't pay for, because the whole idea is that you pay annually a fee with your annual return, and then all the other amendments that you submit or changes during the year is free of charge. Okay, some of them do carry a fee because there is some other working behind it, but that's the concept. The annual return fee is not negotiable or payable in installments. It is a standard that people that are behind in filing annual returns ask for installment arrangements or want to negotiate. Our law does not allow for the CIPC to waive or reduce its fee or to allow for installment arrangement to pay those fees. It's the way that the Companies Act is structured. You file the information, plus you pay, that equals a complete filing. So if you submit the information, you don't pay, it's not a legal filing. Okay. So that's why it needs to happen beforehand. All right. Why penalty fee? So as most of you know, that sometimes there are sanctions for late compliance. It is in order to, it's a mechanism that is used, or a tool to ensure timeliness compliance. So how's the penalty fee structured within relating to annual returns? It is based on your turnover. So the smaller companies will pay a small penalty fee, while the bigger companies, based on their bigger turnovers, will pay a bigger penalty fee. So it's scalable based on the size of the company, and we use the turnover for that calculation. Right, so that's just the introductory of annual returns, why it's there. Now we come to the question is, but why? This is the big question in modern society, is why does something exist? And it's the right question to ask, because we should not just blindly accept certain things. We need to understand why it exists. For some of us, it may feel tedious to comply with certain matters if we don't understand the reasoning behind it. So hopefully this few slides will actually provide some indication to you as to why. Right. So what is CIPC? So CIPC, in a nutshell, is the custodian of all registered companies and closed corporations in the country and cooperatives. Right? So we are the source registry for this information. There's only one of us in the country. Our information, or the information that CIPC holds and administers and protects, are used by public and government institutions to make decisions. So if that information is outdated, those public and government departments can't make informed decisions regarding corporate entities. So for example, government is going through the process of to know what's the size and the status of the NPC, or the non-profit company sector, right? Where do they get that information? CIPC, because we register all NPCs, we maintain their information, so they'll come to us for that question, or as part of the question. How many external companies are investing in South Africa? CIPC contains that information. Is a specific company compliant in order to do business with? Is it legitimate? We get this question on a regular basis, especially if a foreign company or a foreign businessman wants to do business with a local company. They ask us, is this company existing? Is it compliant? And that's where our information comes in. All right. So it's critical for CIPC to have up-to-date information. If that is outdated, how can that impact you as a business owner? You may lose a deal if it's not updated because you're doing a business with a company from Mozambique and they want to know whether you're legitimate, whether your information is up to date. Do you actually exist? Who are they going to hold accountable if something goes wrong? Who is authorized to sign the agreement? That's the type of information that we keep. So we as CIPC are also mandated to keep an up-to-date and effective register of all companies, closed corporations, and cooperatives. It also means that companies and closed corporations who is not doing business should be removed from the register. Right? So we need to clean up the register. That's why we've got deregistration. Once you're finally deregistered and your company had economic value, it had shares, trademarks registered in, it had money, please note that the idea of having a business idea at the time of deregister is not economic value. You need to have for example, an agreement in place already that's signed by both parties, a lease agreement, something tangible. Then we can reinstate you. The other reason why we need to clean this registry, number one, is because when we had this problem where Stats SA made the assumption that we had so many active companies and therefore we had so many employees. So if our data is out sync as to what is actually really going on in the economy, then they've got warped information. The other thing that's coming online is that if your company's on the registry, but it's not doing business, it's not filing annual returns, it poses a risk for that entity to be used for money laundering, fraud, or terror financing. Right? So these empty businesses sitting, waiting on the registry actually exposes or provides opportunities for these type of crimes to occur. Then on the other hand, as CIPC, we want to we are doing it, ensuring that there's a reputable corporate environment by increasing the compliance with the Companies Act. This is very important. If you want to do business with a person from Mozambique, Botswana, the UK, France, wherever, they want to make sure when they do business with South Africa through a business in South Africa, they want to make sure that we have got a good, solid, reputable corporate environment, that businesses and people are held to account for their conduct, that the information is correct, that there are sanctions. So if there's breach of contract, that they can come to South Africa to make sure that there's consequences for that breach. So all of these plays a very important role in making our businesses attractive for foreign people to do business with, and as well as to attract foreign investment into our economy. Our information is also combined with various other sources of information to answer specific questions. So, for example, our information, or the CIPC corporate and director information, is linked up with immovable property on Windeed. The banks use the information that we have at CIPC to make sure that they know who they are doing business in order to lend money, to extend credit. SARS uses our data to know how many prospective corporate taxpayers there are. Use that information in order to trace them down to make sure that people are doing their business and are paying the taxes that are due in order to run all the government functions. Even our information is used during civil and criminal investigations. Um, let's look at the state capture. We have a specific team within CIPC that just deals with requests for information from law enforcement, so they can collect the information to take it to criminal courts, as civil investigations as well. So yes, and even CIPC can use our own data to take people to companies to court for non-compliance with the Companies Act, for example, director misconduct. So as you can see, the information that is contained in CIPC and which we need to make sure it's up to date, and what you need to update us with, has got value. So now you understand what this information is all about, why we need it, what we use it for, or what other people use it for. What is the consequence if you're not complying with annual returns? So there's a little rule in the Act. It's not a little rule, it's a rule to say that you need to have 2 successive annual returns outstanding before we can place you into deregistration. So if, for example, let's go back to the example that it's your business's birthday on the 9th of September, you have not filed within your 30 business days. I'm talking now about a company here. Next year, 2024, you still don't file in September during that 30 business day period, then the CIPC system will automatically put you into deregistration, right? You are non-compliant. We assume that you're not doing business. And because we need to have an active and up-to-date registry, we start the deregistration process automatically. Please note, we don't do it by hand. We don't select you off a list. It's all run systematically, right? So you are then now placed in deregistration. Because it's in CIPC, we try to, with our statuses, we try to be descriptive in a way to make sure what triggered the deregistration. If your cause for deregistration is annual returns, it will state your status as annual return deregistration. So the non-compliance with annual returns is the trigger for deregistration. If you're on that status, you can still file, right? But you run the risk that your creditors, your banks, your service providers may start stopping you from doing business with them because you're a risk. That AR deregistration status is a risk indicator to them that you may be ending your life cycle, right? And therefore poses a risk for them and the business activities that you undertake. So they may stop these things. If you are still continuing with your non-compliance with annual returns, eventually you will be finally deregistered. Right, so what happens when you are now finally deregistered? We have discussed AR deregistration, which is the process that you are in. Now it's happened. You are finally deregistered. What now? Remember, companies and CCs are corporate vehicles, so they provide perpetual existence and limited liability for the people inside those businesses to do those business activities. So once the company and CC is deregistered, that business ceases to exist. That protective perpetual existence and limited liability falls away, right? So this legal entity can't trade anymore, can't do business anymore. It does not exist, right? What happens now is also when this protective layer, I call it a layer, is stripped away because of final deregistration, it exposes the directors and shareholders and the members if it's a closed corporation regarding their conduct. That protective layer does not exist. So service providers and creditors can gun for the directors personally in terms of law for all the debts of this company, all the actions of the company. So it exposes you to risk. The bank may freeze your bank account. Please note that they actually do freeze it very quickly. So you will not be able to access your funds. Service providers may stop doing business with you because the business does not exist. Remember, when you have a company and a CC, The company in CC does the business. Although you are the hands, the feet, the mouth, the eyes, you're the person doing the actual activity. You move the business forward. They actually do business with the business, not you. Right. So when this protective mechanism falls away, that contract may start heading towards some legal responsibility and legal issues, right? And creditors may refuse to pay you, to pay your business, right? Not you, because remember, everything is done in the name of the company in CC, not you. All right, so as I stated before, once you're finally deregistered and you do have economic value, you may apply for reinstatement by submitting the form and supporting evidence, and then once that is processed, you file all outstanding annual returns. All right, how to file? I think this is the key element. Please go to this link. It's a very nice video done by a colleague on how to file annual returns via the BIS portal. We're encouraging the small business owners where you want to do your own thing, comply, do the activities yourself to comply, know what's going on, is to actually use the BIS portal. It's designed for the small business owner that does his own affairs. It is not, the BIS portal is not designed for intermediaries or people providing helping companies and CCs with their compliance obligations with CIPC or with different laws. Okay, and the BIS portal is the quickest and the easiest to actually file your annual returns. So we've got various filing options just to run through it. It's all electronic. It's no manual due to volumes. You can file via the BIS portal. It's the quickest. E-services are more for intermediaries, self-service centers as well, if you want to have a more human interactive type of approach when you do it. So when you're using the BIS portal, there's a few things that people, when they start using the BIS portal, that they experience. So we just need to clarify a few practical matters that may be experienced. So let's say, for example, I want to file on behalf of my client. Now, because I'm an intermediary, I'm not able to use the BIS portal because it's not designed for me as the intermediary. I'm not a director of the company or the CC, and therefore, it will not appear on my profile. So on the BIS portal, when you log in, we use the customer code or the ID provided to identify from our register where this ID number appears across the registry as an active director or a member, and then we pre-populate that into a dashboard. So if I'm an intermediary, I'm not my ID doesn't reflect as a director on the registry, I will not be able to see it. Then also, I must be an active director or member to reflect. Not if you have resigned, for example, something else happened to your status, it will not reflect. In that case, please check the BIS profile to check whom is the active directors or members, and then if necessary, you need to correct the information by filing the relevant information to the CIPC. Then something that we have experienced is my previous filing does not reflect. The most common is people have paid by depositing the annual return fee, but have not actually filed. Remember in the previous slide, filing information with fee equals legal filing. Okay. We have also experienced an issue, those that are more actively involved and actively engaging with the CIPC, that during January this year, we had the enhanced e-services launch. And what during that period happened is we were running data off two databases. And what happened is that sometimes it did not sync correctly. So you may have filed during the enhanced e-services period, but the data was not migrated for you for now to file. Please log a ticket. Our IT department will go and extract or migrate the data from the one database in order to the next, in order for you to complete that process. We have pretty much dealt with most of the cases that we have. We do realize that customers, especially small business owners, may come in on an annual basis, not on a regular basis, and therefore we're just promoting to say this, if this happened, just to log a ticket and then we will migrate the data. All right, your filing confirmation, if you do not receive it. So the most common issues there, it is please check your junk and your spam and junk filters. Please note that as CIPC, we send thousands upon thousands of SMSs and emails in a day. Service providers sometimes think that we are spam because of the bulk of communication that we issue out. We do on a regular basis, we check that, our IT department check that and make sure that we are whitelisted so we are not blocked. But if it does happen, just double check with that and check with your service provider. Check your email address and on your customer profile whether that's correct. We're also picking up that people sometimes make typing errors and therefore you will not actually receive the confirmations. One of you run through those options, you can just correct and reprint the certificate. If all of the above fails, please log a ticket on the CIPC inquiries. All right, filed with the wrong turnover. Please note this happened on a more regular basis than people think. Please log a fault for the AR unit. We will prepare and submit it to finance. Please note it is a time-use process. We need to have a specific set of information. It goes through 3 signatories just in the company's division alone. Then it goes to our finance department where it's queued for processing as well. And because this is all about money and we are a government department, we have to account for it. We need to have due processes. It does take time to check everything. And then finance will sign and then they will credit or debit the amount back. So please, when you file annual returns, please make sure you submit the correct turnover when you file the first time. Then the other one but this one has been addressed. When you filed your FAS component, you would have gotten an ID validation error. That has been corrected. We have what we term delinked the financial supplement from our real-time verification with Home Affairs, so you should not be receiving that error at the moment. Then the other one is I cannot file my annual returns because my client has not submitted his or prepared his AFS, annual financial statements. Please file and then use the previously approved annual financial statement information. Once the relevant year's AFS is correct, resubmit it to the correct portal, right? If you have got questions regarding you've got challenges in completing the AFS, or please remember there is legal timeframes to prepare your AFS and to submit it. We cannot deviate from that as well, but you can contact the financial statements department. They will look at the scenario and advise you and make a note to say, okay, you're going to do this in order to get your annual returns and then put you on a list to monitor that you actually file the right information as soon as it's done. All right, quickly, beneficial ownership. We're half an hour in. So I'm just going to take a deep breath before I dive in. All right, beneficial ownership. What is this? So beneficial ownership is information. Again, the word information that is required to be filed by what is called the General Laws Amendment Act regarding anti-money laundering and combating terror financing. It came into law in December 2022, and the companies' regulations have been amended. So if you take a Companies Act, you will not find this in there, although this act actually amends some of the components and adds some conditions in. So you need to read the Companies Act with this legislation. This legislation gives CIPC the mandate to request companies to file updated beneficial ownership information as and when applicable. Very interesting. Beneficial ownership is not a CIPC thing, right? It's a South African government thing that we need to collect as a collectivist government beneficial ownership. So SARS has got the programs for beneficial ownership. Trusts needs to file beneficial ownership information with the Master of the High Court. Non-profit organizations that's registered under the Department of Social Development needs to file information with that. So it is a South African thing. We just have something because CIPC is responsible for corporate entities, companies and co-ops. We need to collect beneficial owner information relating to that corporate structures. So what is beneficial ownership? Okay, in short, another analogy. It is who wags the tail of the dog, or who wags the dog, right? It is who actually ultimately derives benefit from a corporate structure, or who controls its activities, right? Firstly, it must be the directors, shareholders. Corporate structures are very much complex. You've got layers and layers and layers. Corporate entities may be set up not for the benefit of the directors or the shareholders, but for somebody that's five layers down that ultimately controls, ultimately gets the benefit from these corporate structures. So, money laundering, terror financing, and our state capture the flow of government monies can't be traced, or it becomes difficult to trace via these different layers of ownership on corporate structures, and therefore we've got beneficial ownership. It is to provide clarity as to what is going on there, who's the beneficial owner of that, who's getting the ultimate benefit of it. Think about it in state capture in the South African context at the moment. If we know the flow of government procurement and money, we may have been able to pick up anomalies far quicker than what we had to. Another thing that you need to understand about beneficial ownership thing, it's not unique to South Africa. This is a global requirement. It's a global requirement that registries and countries must have beneficial ownership or have records of beneficial ownership. So you're not going to find that this is unique in South Africa. If we do not comply as a country to building in the laws, the regulations, the enforcement, and the collection of the information of this, is that our own business environment may be suffering because we are not protecting, we don't know what's going on, we don't have enough control mechanisms in our financial sectors or financial transactions, which means that unlawful people can come in, use our systems to their own benefit, and that scares off the honest investors into our country. Right. And also, when they invest in the country in money, they want to know ultimately where does the money go within our economy? Who ultimately derives the benefit? So I'm not going to go through all of these slides. It's actually like 2 or 3 slides. Please follow the CIPC social media platforms if you're not doing so already. Please Google the beneficial ownership webinars that has been done by our Miss Lucinda Steenkamp, our senior legal advisor here at CIPC, about beneficial ownership, how it works, why it's there, all those details. And as I stated in the previous slides at the beginning, the reason why it's bringing in here, very soon in the next couple of months, before you will be able to file annual returns, your beneficial ownership must be up to date in order to file. So those that are intermediaries, please start preparing your clients for it. So the beneficial ownership, unfortunately, is not yet on the BIS portal for those of you that want to do your own affairs. We are going to move it to the BIS portal. So currently it's under our e-services function, there at the bottom, beneficial ownership. All right, just quickly to recap, general information to remember, correct contact details, please. We cannot contact you, issue legal notices if we do not have the up-to-date, active contact details, email and cell phone numbers of directors and members. Please make sure that it is there. You can please, in that regard, check your own information. Due to POPIA, we don't disclose personal information, contact details on our electronic platforms or paper-based disclosures. It's to protect you. So you need to go check your own records. A key thing is if you have not received a reminder, that's pretty much key that your contact details may be out to date. And in that regard, we ask you to please go and update via our Call 39 or the CK2 amendment process to make sure that we've got the correct contact details. Right, and we are phasing out posting. It's not cost effective at the moment to keep physical posting. And we all know the challenges that the post office is going through. And so I'm not going to go into that. So now the key thing is how to stay in the know, how to keep abreast of all these things that are happening, because the business environment is getting complex very, very quickly. Please follow CIPC on our social media platforms. You can always go in and check them out. We post about 2 or 3 things from IP to companies and things that are happening in our environment, invitations to webinars, etc. So please follow us on social media. Also refer to our website on a regular basis for the formal notices. Check your company profile on a regular basis on the Biz portal, please. Then also, if you want to know what your duties are as a director, what the law requires of you, please go through the director online training course that the CIPC has. It's free of charge. It's very cute, very informative as well. There's questions at every module, so you can actually test yourself at the end how you have been doing. You can do it multiple times in order for you to know what your duties and responsibilities are. Then also keep your company and closed corporation information easily accessible. Welcome letter, registration certificate, all your filing confirmations, not just annual returns, your financial records, minutes of meetings, share registers, etc. Right. Then why are we doing this drive? Why are we so pumping our social media platforms with AR compliance and consequences? So we are currently in the process of a drive to improve AR compliance in order to get more companies on. We also, another of the purpose is to actually clean up the registry as well. So we're on the process of issuing all the legal notices. There are 2 that needs to be issued. We have completed the first. Please note we email it out. We're no longer posting it. So we're currently in our waiting period, and then we're going to start issuing the second notice. Our initial final deregistration was mid to end November, but due to the fact that it took us longer than expected to issue all the legal notices via email, the timeline had to be pushed back to around about mid-January. So somewhere early December, early January, we will probably start confirming via formal notice on our website. And we're going to post it on our social medias about the actual date of final deregistration. So please, all outstanding annual returns needs to be filed and paid before final deregistration. Okay, so I've already addressed those things. Please note on the Biz portal, we use the card payments. We don't use declining balance on Biz portal. You can actually just go through this. We are phasing out the declining balance approach. We prefer that people immediately pay. It's just easier to administer. It addresses a lot of controls that we have currently with the declining balance. All right, then this is now the last slide. So it's just going to be quick. Remember, directors and members will always be liable even after final deregistration. So just because your entity, your business has been finally deregistered does not absolve you from your duties when you were an active director. Right, so creditors can come for you if there was misconduct or the company still owes money. You can reinstate after final deregistration, provided that there was economic value at the time of final deregistration. And then a very thing that we are picking up is that people ask about their names. So when a company in CC is finally deregistered, the name pick up because the legal entity does not exist. The name then becomes available for others to reserve, right? For another customer, company, or closed corporation or cooperative. If that happens and you reinstate, you'll get your old name back as at the time of final deregistration. So now there's a conflict. CIPC cannot deal with its term name objections. We cannot deal with name objections. We do not have the authority in law to do that anymore. That resides with the company's tribunal. So let's say you were finally deregistered, somebody came on and registered the name, and now you have reinstated and you want the name again. You need to go to the company's tribunal and follow the due process, informing the other party as to say that they need to change the name. And the company's tribunal will then make a decision who has got the strongest right to the name and give an order to that effect. The orders usually comes on names, is to say that if the other party does not comply, CIPC usually gets instruction then to remove the name without the other client, without further correspondence to that client. So meaning that you can lose your name, and in which case your registration number will become your name, And again, you can then go and reserve a new name and add it onto it afterwards. So this is the last slide, as I stated, and I would just like to thank you very much for your time and patience and listening to this presentation. I hope you found it insightful and that it helps you understanding the reason for compliance, what is annual returns, and that this will assist you in helping you to actually make this an annual habit to make sure that you are compliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Krista. That was very informative. We will now go through our questions that have came up. But before we address the question, I just want a bit of clarity myself. Can you please tell me if I'm correct to understand that co-ops do not file the annual returns as yet? Is that correct? We are still waiting for
Yes,
approval to file.
we're still developing the system for co-ops to file annual returns.
Okay,
So you're
great.
more
So
than
if I
welcome.
have,
They still have got a duty to file financial statements, the co-op. So more than welcome to, if you're a co-op or a director of a co-op or a member of a co-op, to log a ticket, but log the ticket not under companies and closed corporations, but cooperatives, and then they will assist you from there. Thank you, Shani.
okay. Thank you for that answer. I have a question for you. It's the turnover never reflects on the annual returns. I think you should have given us a bit more clarity on the question, but maybe you can just expand on more about the turnover. Why do you think she feels it doesn't reflect, or should it reflect?
All right, so there's a little bit of history behind that. So when we developed annual returns in the late 2000s, right? That's how old annual returns have been. It's over almost 20 years in existence. Is And that time, the legislation was based on the fact that certain information was regarded as private. So therefore, when you filed your annual returns in the past, the turnover only reflected on your first certificate, right? In order for you to confirm that this is what was submitted to the CIPC or the then CIPRO. So with the outgoing of the 1973 Act and the incoming of the 2008 Act, everything that's submitted to CIPC now becomes public information. So the first certificate then still actually states, the first certificate still states the turnover, for the reason being you need to have confirmation of what you filed. But there was a request made and implemented a couple of years ago that every other certificate will then also reflect the turnover. So if the client is complaining that it's not reflecting, please log a ticket, because then we'll have to go investigate as to why that has changed, that the further downloads of the certificates don't reflect the turnovers. Thank you.
Okay, our next question will be for companies that never operate and are on annual return final deregistration process. What do we do about them to reinstate them or get them into operational because they're not even allowed to file annual returns?
Okay, so I'm going to take you through steps. So AR final deregistered. It means that we have removed the legal entity. The legal entity does not exist. So if the legal entity does not exist, then we cannot allow you to file information with the CIPC on that corporate entity because it does not exist. Okay, so that's the logic behind why you can't file annual returns. Then, as I stated in the presentation, you can reinstate provided that there was economic value. The client at the question already admitted that this company was not operational at the time of deregistration. Therefore, it does not have economic value, and we're not going to reinstate it, right? Because we only want companies and CCs on our registry that are actually doing business, right? Well, because then why do we final deregister? In that case, it's advisable to register a new company and then continue under the branch of the new company. I hope that clarifies it.
I'm sure it does. She can always add another question if anyone needs more explanation, or you would like Krista to expand on your question or her answer, please post it on our comments now. The next question that I have is, I submitted an annual returns yesterday and have not received the confirmation via email. Is there a problem with our systems, Krista, or can you
Not that
answer
I'm
what could
aware
be
of.
the problem?
Please refer to my slide regarding the filing confirmations. It may be that there may be a slight delay, for example, or it may be your service provider has moved it into junk mail, or your computer settings has regarded as junk mail. So just follow the recommendations on the slide regarding the filing confirmations. If all else fails, log a ticket, and we'll see whether we can regenerate it for you. But please try those common troubleshooting requirements first.
Yes, most of the time we see that it goes into junk mail, and then our audience is looking for their certificates.
That's
Okay,
correct.
next question from Claudette. Deregistration date is January 2024. Is that the day for deregistration?
All right. So there's different steps in the process. So we're aiming towards mid-January.
Okay.
But the date will be once we have completed another two of our steps in our process on communications, then we will actually issue a formal notice round about end of November, beginning of December, round about there, as to confirm what is going to be the final date. But we're looking at mid-January at the moment.
Anyway, Claudette, CIPC is very lenient, so we always give you allowance. So if you do have any companies that need to file their annual returns, please do it as soon as possible. Okay, Freda, your question is, we always file our annual returns on time, but always we are charged a penalty. How do we avoid this?
All right, so that is a little bit tricky because, as I stated, your due period is calculated from the anniversary, and it will depend whether it's a company or a closed corporation. So go back to I think it's the second slide or the third slide that clearly states when you become due. If you are a company, let's say your anniversary date is the 9th of September for your business, the system will open up the day after the 9th, right? You've got 30 business days. And then for CCs, it's from the beginning of the anniversary month to the end. So it may be that your timing is out. So please go check your anniversary, your actual registration date via the BIS portal, and then diarize that specific date to submit, or just the date just after the anniversary date.
Okay,
Thank you.
Frida. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see the next question. When will declining balance be phased out? Is there a proposed date?
Okay, there is not a proposed date as yet. We've got lots and lots of systems currently on the declining balance. So what's going to happen as we modernize or redo or review existing processes, they will only become available on the card payment system. So, for example, I'm going to take the associated name reservation release of the end of June, July. My apologies that I can't remember the precise date. That was always under the declining balance because it was a manual process. So when we reactivated it, we put it on an electronic platform. It is only available, only payment can happen on card payments. So it's going to be a gradual approach over a period of time to phase out all of these services. So there's no fine deadline. So my advice is to monitor the CIPC and know that as each system comes are renewed, and we communicate that, know in the back of your mind that it will go into the card payment system only for payment options. All right.
Thank you so much, Krista, for that answer. Let's see Alma's question. Isn't the BO related to annual returns? Okay.
Beneficial ownership, actually, how the laws was written is when you file your annual returns on the same day or simultaneously, you need to file your beneficial ownership. So that's how the laws were written. Currently, because beneficial ownership was a new thing, we build it as a standalone. So as I stated in my previous slide, in the next couple of months, we're going to link our beneficial ownership with the annual returns. So you will not be able to get to annual returns unless your beneficial ownership is up to date. Maybe just for the small business owners, please go check. There are a couple of dates. So your annual returns and BO actually run simultaneously, although our systems are not quite synced yet, but by law it is. The law also states that once you've registered a new company, within 10 business days of registration, you need to submit your beneficial ownership. You can use the standalone for that. And when there are changes to the beneficial ownership, you must also file that via the standalone, but you need to file at least once a year your beneficial ownership, and that is aligned to your annual return filings. I hope that clarifies it, but for more information, please monitor the beneficial ownership and attend the webinars or just to Google the previous ones that was done. Thank you.
Yes, there are two previous BO webinars that has been done on, which is on Facebook. Just go back and you'll be able to see it. Also, these presentations of our webinars are already uploaded on our website. Okay. JJV, let's see his question. In trying to submit my BO, there is talk of affected company or non-affected. All explanations I find do not make clear sense. Is there a layman's definition of the difference?
All right. So, just like with on your PI scores, there is a difference. So an affected company straight off the bat, state-owned companies, public companies, straight off the bat, effective companies, right? Then in the definitions, it's basically about the share changes for private companies. So you need to go and check. Sorry, I don't have the information quite readily available, but it is within the guides about the, sorry, my apologies. Let me quickly just scroll through my presentations. Another presentation that I've got on my desk. It's got it in there and I'm going to read it. So just hold for a moment regarding the affected. Murphy's Law, the time that you want something, you can't find it, but I found it. All right,
Okay,
so
thank
effective
you.
company means a regulated company as set out in section 1117, subsection 1, subsection I, which in turn refers to a company to which this part C, regulation of affected transactions and offers has to do with, and it's got more to do on the takeover regulation sector. So an affected company therefore includes a public company, listed or unlisted, a state-owned company, except when the minister has exempted them, and none state-owned companies have yet been exempted from it, a private company in terms of the transfer of securities when exceeding the percentage prescribed by the minister, which is currently 10% within a 24-month period. A private company that is controlled by an affected company or a subsidiary of an affected company will then become an affected company. So let's say you're a subsidiary of a listed company, basically means you are defined as an effective company. If you're a private company. For normal private companies, it has to do with the transfer of your securities and whether you've met a specific threshold. But if you need more clarity on that specific scenario, please log a ticket. It is not under companies and closed corporations. There's a specific one. There you select corporate legal, and then from corporate legal, you choose beneficial ownership. There are dedicated team members that will then can guide you to the specific scenario. Please, I know we are experiencing where people have got theoretical ideas of and scenarios that they're running through. It's very difficult and this is all very new. Please deal with specific cases when you ask for specific information. Okay, I hope that helps.
I'm sure that is fair, that will be helpful for JJV. Okay, let's see. Our next question is, With whom can I book an online meeting at CIPC? I have no success to file BO. I received feedback on my ticket that the issue is resolved, but still I cannot file. I would like to show my error.
All right, we do not as CIPC make arrangements for meetings because most matters can be dealt with as quickly as possible. This falls under the corporate legal. So what you can do is send a email to corporate legal services at cipc.co.za, and then with your ticket number, please, in order for them to assist. That is a manned mailbox for corporate, for court documents, but I think that that will be the quickest to escalate that the ticket is not satisfactory answered.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Will you issue a press release for this so that we can share on my newspaper bulletin, this bulletin? I think this is related to when the companies will be deregistered.
All right, so the notices are published on our website. As CIPC, we have got specific stakeholders that we manage as senior managers. Those notices goes out to them. If you are, for example, I assume none of the bank representatives will be on this webinar. My apologies if that assumption is incorrect, but if you're an accounting firm, then you should be getting that from your institution once we issue the notifications to them. Otherwise, you need to monitor our website for that information.
Yes, thank you. In terms of payment, is an EFT acceptable or only card? Excuse my ignorance.
All right. Now, it depends on what mechanism you use. So if you EFT into your customer code before your filing, then please refer to our website. Your customer code must be clearly stated on that EFT when you make the deposit into the CIPC bank account, into your customer code.
Okay.
When you do card payments on the BIS portal, currently we only accept bank card information. We don't have an electronic EFT component for that type of services. I trust that helps.
Okay, yes, that does. How long does it take for CIPC to final deregister a company that has not filed annual returns?
All right, so we have in the past, because we're talking about hundreds and thousands that we tackle at a time, we physically posted the letters through the post office, and that it's quite expensive because it was registered mail notices. It was done sporadically every couple of years. So what also then happened is during the process, if the company data, because remember, we're talking about hundreds and thousands of entities. We don't do this one by one by one. So it's all system driven. And in order for the system to identify, the data has to be correct. So we have got where they have skipped the previous runs, or the banks or SARS has objected to the final deregistration because they've got outstanding obligations with SARS or the banks. And we're talking here about big money and things that are owed. So there are various reasons as to why that could have happened. And in the new system that we're going to refresh next year, those reasons may specifically still be there. So if you want to find out why, please log a ticket for annual returns and we'll go check the history. If we find that it should have been finally deregistered because there were no objections to the final deregistration, we'll put it on a control list to make sure that it goes into the next run. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell me, Krista, so there isn't a set date when deregistration takes place. So how long does a person have not to pay the annual returns before the company gets deregistered?
Okay, so here's the thing. That should not be your question. Your question should be how to make sure that I file my annual returns in time every year. You've got 30 business days from your anniversary date. And if you're a company, if you're CC, you've got 2 months.
Oops.
That must be your thinking. We as South Africans love to do the deviant thinking, like, how long do I have until it's really crunch time? So as South Africans, most of us love number 99. we need to actually try to just change that behavior. And that's why I'm saying let's be proactive as a community, as citizens of this country, and we plan according to when things should actually be done and not when I'm going to be caught out with my pants down.
Ouch. Okay. Thank you so much for that. Let's see the next question. What do we file for external companies?
It's the same you use on the online system. External
Okay.
companies must also file annual returns. Thank you very much for that one. They use the same filing system as local companies. The
Okay.
only thing is that they will be exempted from filing AFS and FAS.
Okay. Our next question. How long does it take for voluntary deregistration to pull through to SARS and for the deregistration on CIPC and SARS to be completed?
All right, so that is a little bit more trickier. From our side, it takes 4 months. Again, it's a legacy system, so I do apologize that sometimes matters are skipped uh, from the final deregistration on the voluntary. So what's currently happening is that we've got a real-time link with SASH. So every moment that information changes on the side of the CIPC, we inform SASH. Now, how SASH interpret the information through their various systems, we cannot attest to, but they are informed of the final deregistration. So, but in the current way of doing it, once it's finally deregistered, you still need to log a ticket for CIPC that we can generate the final deregistration notice for you, which you will then take to them in order to finalize the processes there. We haven't sorted that arrangement out with SARS yet to make it easier for clients. But it's on the, not to say to-do list or parking list, it's one of the items that we are currently looking at, but it's a little bit down the list of items. There are other items a little bit higher up on the list that requires more focus at the moment. But no, so currently you log a ticket for the final deregistration letter, you take it to SASH, and then SASH has to finish up their processes on their side.
Okay. And our next question is, what must be filed in respect of BO information for external companies? Do branches fall under affected or non-affected entities?
Okay, my apologies for that. I don't know the answer. I'm not the business owner for beneficial ownership, so I don't want to say yay or nay. I don't want to give the wrong information. Please log a ticket under corporate legal and seek the clarification.
Okay. And our next question is on voluntary deregistration. And do we still have some assets under the company? What happens to the assets?
Whoop, that goes to government.
Oh,
So when you deregister, whether it's voluntary or annual returns, a deregistration is a deregistration and the legal consequences is the same. So if you had assets in the way of immovable property, money, etc., in theory or in principle of law, it's called bona vacantia. It's a very old Roman Dutch principle. You cannot have ownerless properties and monies. So it goes to the state. But as I stated, if you go voluntary, please make sure that it's an empty shell. Double check that there's no asset, and it happens on a regular basis. People apply for voluntary deregistration, not knowing that, especially with a more generational type of family businesses, that their grandfather has bought a property that's been fully paid off and that's been sitting against the name of this entity. Do a search, double check all the bank accounts, check the financial records, check Windeed or the land registry, check the bank, that everything has been transferred out via or disposed of. There's different processes that needs to be followed for it. But then when you apply for voluntary deregistration, it is an empty shell. There is nothing. Right. If there are liabilities, deregistration is not the process, it is liquidation. I hope that helps.
I'm sure it will. So, that has come to the end of my questions that's on the comment section. We still have 20 minutes left. So if there's any other questions, please post it as soon as possible. Krista, is there anything that you want to expand on or talk about? We have a survey that we put up on our comment section. So please give us feedback about today's webinar while Krista is thinking on what she needs to expand about. Um, if you go onto the comment sections, you will see the link over there or the IP address. Please key it in and then give us your feedback, because I see on our comment sections we have a lot of positive feedback. Isn't that nice, Krista?
Thank you very much. Can I please have it for my performance appraisals? Wink, wink. We do this because we love our jobs. We most all of us at CIBC take our work very seriously. It's sometimes very tough to do, and we take it seriously. And we really appreciate the positive feedback. It helps us to know that when we change the way how we do things, that it's actually working. So thank you for that positive comments, everybody.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Okay, Louise has a question again. We registered our company in September, but only started trading in January the following year. So we do not have a full year of trading. How does this affect annual returns?
All right. It does not affect annual returns because remember, annual returns is information that you file on an annual basis about the information of the entity at the time of deregistration. Right, so you're going to put in you're going to check that your data is still correct, your financial year end, your company name, your directorships, etc., that it's all still correct. You are going to the issue that you may have is your AFS FAS because you're within your first year of your life cycle, of your lifespan of your business. So if I remember correctly, if you are within that 12-month period from registering a new company, you will not be asked for your FAS or AFS, okay, because you have not completed the cycle, and it also depends on your financial year end. So if you've got questions regarding your AFS FAS component and you want more clarity, log it onto companies and CCs on the ticketing system, select financial statements, and they can provide you a little bit more detail. It's administered by another component within the CIPC. Beneficial ownership as well. You must file it with your annual return. So again, it is as of the date of filing. So you can do that. So actually, it's not when you started trading, it is your anniversary date, and you file what is relevant at the time of filing. Louise, I hope that helps. My apologies if I didn't remember your name correctly when Shani said it.
Okay, is there any other questions that we have? Is there a phone number or email address we can use for inquiries?
All right. As you can imagine,
That
we
information is
file
on
hundreds and
comment.
thousands. You need to use the ticketing system. So you go to www.cipc.co.za. On the main website, there will be a link called Inquiries. You log it there. We have got teams that act and staff members that monitor for incoming inquiries right from there. If you are experiencing challenges in the answering of your questions on the ticketing system, sorry, I can't show it now, but please go to our website again, About Us on the above banner, and then click on Service Standards. It will give you, if you have logged your ticket and you've not received a response within a given time period, it shows you the first, second, and third tier escalation procedures. But you have to have to log your ticket first. Please note that we are monitored. As one of the duties as senior managers, we are required to report against the volume of tickets answered, how many staff member answered how many tickets, the quality of those tickets. So that allows us for monitoring and making sure that we try to answer as quickly and with the highest amount of quality that we can. Emails don't provide that to us.
Okay. The information is on our comment section. It has been displayed on our on the screen at this moment, and you will be able to see the information that there's it again, to how to log a query, on what's the address that you need to go into, as well as the call center telephone number. Okay. Um, is there anything else you would like to expand about, Krista? I see there's
Please,
no.
please note if I expand, I can keep you busy a whole day. So I'll rather wait for questions.
Okay, there's no further questions, but Louise has given a very positive feedback. Thank you for the relevant information. She appreciates it. Okay,
Thank you
I
very much.
see Yuna has also asked another question, Krista.
I'm listening.
Is there a delay responding to our tickets logged on the QRS system? I sent you an email, Advocate Cloco, ticket logged. Please assist with an updated core 201. Thank you.
All
Okay.
right. Yeah, no, I'll check my emails. Unfortunately, and that's why we also use the ticketing systems. As senior managers, we do a lot of projects, decision making, etc. So when and also my apologies from my side if I haven't answered the ticket yet or send it to the relevant line manager, is that I'm also busy with monthly and quarterly reporting. So after this presentation, I've got like a list of reports to do. So unfortunately, queries tend to delay during this period of time. So hopefully in the next couple of days, I will reach your email and follow up. My apologies for that.
Okay. Our tickets turnaround time is 10 working days. Okay. So thank you, Krista, for that explanation. Guys, please remember to fill in the survey. We would really appreciate if you can do that for us. Is there anything else or any other comments we would like, or can we close? Okay, here's a question from JJV. Thank you for affected co-definition. So a closed corporation that has no change in members' interest in the last 2 years will be a non-affected company. Is that correct?
All right. As I said, I don't deal with beneficial ownership every single day. So what I'm saying should be
Okay.
just confirmed by logging a ticket. But remember with CCs, their membership is already natural persons, and beneficial ownership, we want to go through the corporate structure to find out who's the natural person that wags the dog 5 layers down. So that they will be non-affected, but please just log a ticket for our corporate legal unit just to double check. I'll appreciate that.
Okay, the information is on the screen at the moment, JJV. So please contact the corporate legal unit through through those details. Okay, thank you, Advocate Cloco, for that very, very informative presentation. I see Priscilla has said that she appreciates your input and guidance, as well as you have been very helpful when I have a complex queries. Keep up the outstanding work. It's always giving us clear, transparent information on company statutory matters. So
Thank
thank
you
you,
for that
Priscilla,
kind
for that.
words. It's appreciated.
Okay. Um, with no further questions, I would like to thank you, Advocate, for this presentation, and the team for all your assistance. We really appreciate it. Once again, please remember to complete the survey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a lovely afternoon.